Well, Amy, it's great to have you on the podcast today. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me here today, Adam.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. It's really great to have you on, and I just kind of thought I'd introduce you because you've been a life coach for like over 15 years,
hmm
and you work with lots of different people and like corporate and for people to achieve their potential. How did you kind of like get into this? And
Yes. Well, there's a bit of a story, and I
mm,
have to go back about 20 years. And so it was after 9/11 here in the States. It's about a year after when the economy started to tank. And at that point, I was in a role. I was a director of career development for a small liberal private arts college in the middle of Michigan. And then all of a sudden, I got a call into the office one day, and I'm put in this little white room, and I'm introduced to the HR rep who I've never met before. And I knew what was coming. And then my VP offered me a Pepsi. She said, "You're going to need this." And then I found out I was laid off, and I was not expecting that at all because I was working so incredibly hard and the numbers were amazing. I mean, I was just bringing more students into the office than ever been in the office, and I was offering all these new programs, and I was doing all these numbers at the end of the year just to show how much I had done during that year. And so it was just, whew, it was just heartbreaking in that moment. But there's always also the sense of calm that came over me because I was also completely burnt out at that point. And my health was failing. I had gotten up to 400 pounds because I didn't know how to soothe myself from the stress other than eating. I had my blood pressure is through the roof. I was depressed. I was on Prozac and I was $50,000 in debt and that's not even including the student loan debt. And here I am, I just got laid off. And my first response is just a sense of first, the heart drops into your stomach and then the sense of calm. And I realized at that moment I wanted to do something different, but I didn't know what that was. And so I went on to Google, and Google was brand new at this time. So I did Google the coaching. And Google had a very different interface at that point. I could picture myself in front of the screen and what that looked like and what it felt like to start to just look for something that I wanted to do. And here I am, this career professional. I don't even know what I want to do. And so I'm Googling different ideas and I come across this thing called coaching. And so this is about, once again, 20 years ago. And I'm like, this is it. This is what's been missing. This is how I can really help students. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then I completed my career coach certification and then I was like, I'm not sure I want to start a business because I tried starting a resume writing business, realized, that's not really what I wanted to do. And I thought, well, maybe if I start a coaching business, but I didn't even know how to start. But then in the paper, in the newspaper, we used to find jobs in newspapers. I found this ad for I think back then it was called a health behavioral change specialist or counselor or something like that. But underlining the description of that was a lot of the coaching principles I had been learning. And so I had applied for that position and was hired on. And so that is what started my career as a health and wellness coach in a healthcare organization. And so I did that for 15 years as I built up additional certifications, and I'm now in here in the States, we have this credential through the Medical Board of Examiners. It's a health and wellness coach credential. And so I had to go to a testing center and take this test on coaching. And so I've got that credential. And then through Coach U, I have several different credentials through that. And I've taken, oh my goodness, so many classes and other seminars through the years. I've probably have spent close to six figures, if not over that, on just the training because I love it so much. So that's how I got into coaching. And then I started my business because I really saw this need for someone to tie together wellness and career because we often separate them. Like in wellness coaching, working for more of this corporate organization, it was very much, oh, you just stay in your box. But I saw so many people where really their career was causing so much stress for them that was impacting their health. So I'm like, I think we need to combine these two. And so that's where I came up with the concept of lights on again coaching, where just to spark that light again in us that starts to get dim when we're in these soul crushing, stressful types of situations. So that was my long story, Adam.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, I think it's great that you can share your story and the experiences that you went through, because I think, like you said, a lot of the times in these corporate jobs, and I think we've seen that a lot over COVID, people being let go. And as you mentioned before, you're working really hard, and if you experience that, that being let go, or your job going, there is that kind of like sense of calm or relief. It's a bit like that those emotions aren't there anymore, and you can kind of have, but it's like a moment of clarity almost. You can kind of, you're like, yes, it's quite bad because it doesn't feel great to lose your job, but then you can, you chose to turn it around and look at something in the field of what you want to do and where you can use your skills, isn't it? And I think,
Hmm.
working for that company and working in those departments, you gain so much, all that experience you gain for doing all the courses and, developing yourself and all the training, it all kind of adds up together, doesn't it? To, you as a person, your experience, and for you, having lots of kind of uh badges to your belt to be able to help people, because you've been in it for quite a while and you've been in all these different areas and you learn a lot of different things. I mean, it must be rewarding, being able to help people and see them grow and change through,
Oh,
like, what you do.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. That's why I keep doing it because that's what lights me up. Once again, the name of my company, Lights
Yeah.
On Again Coaching, that's what lights me up is to see people to go from uh, just, barely surviving, just a
Mm.
automatic pilot to actually really truly living their lives and being able to do the work that they love and even to overcome adversity and challenges with more ease because that's a muscle that we can build. We can build that resiliency muscle. And so I love to see people be able to just tackle life head on and with vigor and with vitality and with just this love of life. When I could see that,
Mhm.
that just lights me up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? And I think, like, it's that shift and those changes that people are able to do and to tap into. And I think that's, it just shows you how resilient, and strong people are, and how they can change, over time as well. And like, what kind of, like you say, you talked about like work and corporate life, and do you think that people, like, it's important to take care of your mental health in those roles? Because, like, I think a lot of people sometimes can, experience burnout. Like, that, it's demands, it's targets, all of these things, and then as well with people's personal lives, and they may have family or kids or a mortgage to pay, and then you can see why people are on medication, or they may be having difficulties. I think, especially with the pandemic, there's a lot of different things happening. And on top of that, you got uncertainty. People are in these jobs and they don't know if they're going to have a job next week or next month.
Hmm. Oh my goodness, yes. And just a layer upon layer, right, of stressors. And one thing I've learned as a health and wellness coach, it's really about how we respond to those stressors that makes the difference, because we do have a choice. It doesn't feel like it. Often doesn't feel like it. We feel like we're stuck in a dead end job, but we need the paycheck, or we feel stuck in a relationship that isn't going anywhere, but we're not willing to do anything to change that. I mean, there's just so many choices we have that we give up just because we just maybe are fearful, or it seems like too much hard work. And isn't it fascinating, Adam? I'm sure you see this in
Mm,
your work as well, that we'd rather stay in our comfort zone or what's familiar than step out of that, because at least we know it. We know what that looks like. Even though we are unhappy, we tend to stay in this bubble, and it's fascinating. And I did that. I did that for years. And I just find that absolutely fascinating. As human beings, we do that. But it's also because of how our brain is designed, which I find very interesting, because it's designed to always focus on threat. And so whenever we see a threat in our environment, we're going to shut down. We're going to stay in that comfort zone because we're seeing it as survival instinct. But when we can start to expand that, because we do have the
mm,
ability to change our brain not to focus so much on threat, that's when beautiful things can really start to happen.
mm. Yeah. No, I really agree with you, and I think like the mind's a powerful thing, and I think you know we we have the ability to push out of our comfort zone or to stay in it. I think, as you mentioned, like a lot of the time we react, and it's the survival part of us kicks in, and then you either, it's like fight or flight, isn't it? You react.
Mhm.
um and I think, like like COVID, there's a silver lining, I think, to the situation, and I know everyone's in different circumstances and experiencing different things, but ultimately, like you said, the it's how you ultimately react to it. Like responding to it rather than probably reacting. And I think over time, is it like 3 weeks to develop a new habit, that kind of thing? And we like routine and
Mhm.
safety and comfort. And I've been thinking about it a lot myself, and what I do. And we're in a lockdown in the UK, so you have to be very, very self disciplined, because you can get into bad habits.
Mhm.
When if you're in a certain kind of routine for a while, and I've recognized that, and it's just that self awareness, isn't it? I think you would just say, just trying to be self aware, checking in with yourself.
Absolutely. I think that's key number one, is just that awareness of how we are living our lives. And like you said, you have those habits. I've developed new habits being more at home. We all have. And now that we have gotten through, this first, what is it now, 8 months or so? I've lost track of how many months we've been kind
Yeah.
of in this pandemic, but the months. But that's all how I like to look at it. It's all great learning, because if we can do something right now and build that resiliency and make some
Mm.
different decisions right now, imagine what our life will be like when this pandemic is over. We would have built a whole new skill set. And
Yeah.
so that's why I really encourage folks to take those little steps, take a look at those habits, have that awareness of what's going on right now, and start to just take some small little steps to start to change
Mm.
those habits, because now is always the best time.
Mm. Yeah, that's it exactly. And I was thinking, like, when you like work with clients, like what do you find like helps clients, when you're coaching them, like and what would you suggest, like, if people experiencing burnout in their job and they're tired or depleted, like what do you think is like the a good way of kind of looking after yourself?
hmm And I would say, first off, if folks are feeling really burnt out, stressed out, and just on automatic pilot, is just take some time off And it may feel like, oh, Amy, I don't have that time. And I'm not talking about a day or a huge long vacation. I'm talking about taking some time off, even if it's just taking a breath to be in that present moment. Because a burnout is a slow progression. It doesn't happen overnight. So there are ways that we're responding to some of those stressors. And when we have stressors coming from so many different places, we got to just step back and be in that present moment, because we're always, when we focus on threat, we're always coming up with these what if scenarios in our brain. So our brain is very, very busy trying to decipher
Mm.
where's the threat. And so if we can come to that present moment, we can calm our brain and get into this relaxation response instead of this threat response. So that's the first thing, is just to take some time off. And once again, what I mean by that, it doesn't have to be a lot of time. I mean, if you can take a day just to unwind
Mm.
and just do some self-care, absolutely do that. And then start. But the thing is, after that, after take that moment, even if it's just a breath, to plan something out on how you can continue to take those moments, to take that time for yourself, to start to shift those habits ever so slightly. Because if we try, I mean, we all know this, with the diet industry, we all know if we make too many changes all at once, they just don't stick. And so we just those small little shifts in perspective, little change in habits. And I've seen miraculous things happen in just a couple weeks when folks just start to make these small shifts.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's definitely it. And I think, like you said, it takes that little bit of time and just that consistency with it, and those little 1% all kind of add up,
Hmm.
and not to kind of like, because I think like sometimes people can kind of want things straight away, and I know I've definitely been like that, and it's it's just that gradualness over time, isn't it? As long as you're kind of like making that kind of one step forward kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, Adam, that is so important, that consistency. And you mentioned, like, I think before, yeah, we often hear like 21 days to a new habit. And sometimes that works for certain habits, but that's all about consistency. So if you miss one day, guess what? You need to start all over at day one,
Mm.
because it really is about that consistency. And some habits are so ingrained that it takes longer. And because this is once again back to the brain science of how our brain works, and actually the biology here of our brain is, when we continue to do the same habit again and again and again, we create this neural pathway, and it becomes a super highway. So there's this phrase, what's wired together fires together, which
Mm.
ultimately just means when we are triggered by something. And I'll just use an example here, maybe triggered with the alarm going off in the morning, triggered by that, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I just dread the day. That is wired together, so it fires together.
Mm.
And what we've created is a super highway to wake up in the morning with that alarm going off, going, wow, I just dread the day. But what we can do is we can create a new pathway in the brain. I mean, literally a new pathway, a new neural pathway that says, you know what, when I get up in the morning, I'm going to slam on that alarm and say, I cannot wait to start this day. You literally can retrain your brain to do that, but it takes time. So
Mm.
you've got the super highway of the old habits, and then you've got this new habit, which is a really rough dirt road at first, but
Mm.
it can over time become a super highway, and we can diminish the other superhighway to just a dirt road, that old bad habit.
Mm. Yeah, no, I really love that, and I agree, and I think it's, like you said, there's those kind of pathways that we can create, and they can either be, be good or bad. And I think, like you said, by creating like new ones, it just takes, that is pretty hard work to begin with. But I think if you keep on doing it and kind of push through that routine, you can build those new ways of looking at things and living your life. And I think, everyone has different routines and different ways of getting up in the morning. But I think like, it's just those kind of small differences, isn't it, that make a big difference over time.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about the small. And we, what our brains love to do is we love to dismiss the small. saying, oh, it's not enough. I hear this all the time. It's, oh, that's not enough, Amy. I need to be doing more. And it's like, no, you just need to be doing this one small thing and doing it consistently. And that's where we get ourselves in trouble because, like you're saying, Adam, it really is just that plus one, plus one. It's
mm,
not about huge, massive change. And we hear that a lot. I think in popular culture that, oh, just massive change and you can do it. And you know what? Sometimes we can.
mm,
But if you're working a job and you've got responsibilities and, maybe you're taking care of your parents as well, or,
mm,
you've got all this going on, massive change is going to be pretty challenging. And then if it doesn't happen, then you're going to be right back where you are or
mm,
were. And what's worse is now you're going to feel like you can't achieve anything because you tried to take massive action and didn't work. But
mm,
the beauty of taking these small little steps is then you build up your confidence along the way and you
mm,
start to see results. And then you have a foundation from which to build from. And it's amazing what can be accomplished in as little as a week, a
mm,
couple weeks. I mean, think in 90 days, just taking some
mm,
small steps and gradually adding to those. I think it's kind of this idea of a compound effect. We hear that in investing, right? But it
mm,
really truly is because it's one plus one plus one, but eventually we get to plus two because we've built such a strong foundation that we can add a bigger goal onto that.
mm. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think the compound effect something that I definitely learnt a lot about through one of my friends, Don Sick. I've done a podcast with him, and he mentioned the compound effect and like plus one,
Mhm,
and it really kind of stuck with me, and I ended up, applying it to my life in some ways. And I think, I because when we had the lockdown, I started, we can't go to the gym, so
mhm,
this was like last year, so applying little bits of that to exercise and just building on it, or reading, read. This is something that's still ongoing, but read say 20 pages a day, or build that up and read 30, and then over time, you're reading 50 before you know it, and like you said, it can be applied to anything really. It's just that 1% over time, and as you mentioned before, a lot of people got family, kids, my parents that need help, and that massive change is a lot more difficult for them to do because it's trying to fit that bit of time and to take that massive action or into what they do. So as you mentioned, that little 1% does help. And I've said this to people with posting video content. You don't have to take action straight away and do a massive 5-minute video talking about something. You can just start off. And I had my friend do this the other day. He got motivated to do it, and he did a short reel on his Instagram story for like 15 seconds, talking about his day and his work and what he's doing. And I think you do that every, say, once a week or once a day. Over a while, you'll be doing 4-minute, 5-minute videos, if not longer, because you've built up that confidence. And that's something that I personally think about when I've been doing these podcasts and videos. I've had to work my way up by that 1%, over time to have the confidence to do this.
mhm.
It's it's pretty powerful, isn't it, when you think about it? And you think probably about what you do as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think we dismiss the power of that and until we really try it. But once again, yeah, our brain doesn't like small. Maybe it's our culture, I don't upbringing. I don't know why exactly that
Yeah,
is, but I come across a lot of people. It's like, Amy, no, that's not enough. It's like, well,
yeah,
if you want to go big, let's give that a try, but let's see what happens. So I don't want to dismiss if someone wants to go big, I don't say don't do that. Instead I say, well, let's give that a try and let's come back and talk about what worked and what didn't. And what
mm,
usually happens is they come back and they say, yep, I didn't do it.
mm,
And yeah.
yeah. It's a difficult one, isn't it? I think, as you said, you can try it and recalculate, if how it happened and what results you got, and then just trying it out and experimenting, isn't it? I think that's
Mhm.
probably better than
Absolutely.
not doing anything at all. And I was just thinking, like, do you have any like favorite books or anything like that at all?
Yes. Oh my gosh, Adam, I got so many. There's one. I always like to joke that my favorite book is the one I'm currently reading.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm loving that new book about Netflix, and I'm blanking on the title. Oh goodness. But yeah, when we're talking about culture and companies, that just fascinates me. It's there's something about there are no rules or
I'll have to have a look.
rules. No rules, I think is what it's called. And it's
Yeah.
all about Netflix and how they just have become just this phenomenal company based on a radically different type of culture than the traditional culture. So I find that really
Mm,
fascinating. Also, one of my favorite books is Overcoming Under Earning by Barbara Stanny, and she has several books. Uh, and I think she just written a new one about building wealth. But I love the Overcoming Under Earning because we don't recognize often how much our habits and how we approach life really creates us being in the space of being under earners. And she really highlights what those under earners, what are those identifiers. And
mm,
I was horrified a few years ago when I went through that, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am
mm,
such an under earner, and I would have
mm,
never thought of myself that way. And I have a mentor right now I'm working with who really talks about and did a challenge recently about money fear.
mm,
And we talk about money as, oh, if I can pay off my debt, or if I had enough money in the bank account to do what I wanted to do. So we often think about that as money, but that's still money fear. Where money fear disappears is when we have the skill set to create money whenever we want. And that just blew my
mm,
mind. Is like, oh, isn't that so true that we keep thinking of money, we won't have money fear any longer if it's the right bank account number or we have so much retirement. But it's really about a skill set. And I think that's what Barbara Stanny is talking about in her books as well, is it's a skill set to be a high earner. And
mm.
we're not taught this stuff in school, right, Adam?
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah.
goodness. The stuff I'm learning as a coach is phenomenal. And I wish I could create a whole curriculum for for education on what really
Mm,
helps people to be successful, because quite frankly, and I'm an education, I have my master's degree working on my doctorate in education, so this is coming from someone who has been in the educational space and saying that I really think education is broken, and I think it needs to be overhauled, and we really need to look at the purpose of education, and if it's to help people to uh, get jobs and be successful and to live quality lives and be happy in their lives, it's not working, just not working.
yeah. No, I really agree with you, and I think that you made some really great points. And like people I hear sometimes say, "I'll I'll be rich when I get X, Y, Z," or when only if this happens, I'll be secure. Secure. It's almost like throwing something on a raft and throwing it out to sea and saying, "Well, I'm going to be okay when I catch that." I'm going to, and it's like you're kind of throwing it out there, and it's not. It's like you said, it is a skill set and almost like a mindset as to the value that it's like you said, like the value that you place on your services or yourself, and it's um it's something that you aren't taught, and I think a lot of it can come down to your belief system. There's a hell of a lot of a lot of psychology to like money and how you treat money, if that makes sense. And I think it's something that's a process that you learn and you kind of figure out as you go along. And I think it's something that I've been more mindful about recently. And it's so interesting and fascinating when you see it, you hear stories about it. And I think, as you mentioned, like you know people in education society, it's a bit of a backwards kind of system. I mean, they're not trying it for it to be backwards, but it kind of is, because you've got people who, got really good jobs and successful, might have family, status, etc., but they're not happy. And it's like, well, there's something has to be done there. And I've spoken to people who've been in certain situations, and they're not happy, even though they've got a job, a car, and a house, and open house. And it's
Mhm.
happiness is different for each person. I get that, and it's very, it's a personal thing. But the things that you learn through coaching, or the things that you learn through certain courses, like when I did my coaching, I was like, why didn't if I learned this in school, or if I learned this when I was 17, I wouldn't have had XYZ relationships. I'll put my time into certain things. And if we could create a curriculum that shows this, that it'd be fantastic. But yeah, it's so interesting talking about these things, because I think they're important topics to talk about.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Oh, and I know we're
Yeah,
getting to our time here, Adam. I
yeah,
want
yeah,
to be respectful of your time, but
yeah.
oh my
No, that's
goodness, I
cool.
could go on all. It's morning here in
Yeah,
Minnesota. I could go on all morning, all afternoon your time, but
yeah,
we've got to stick
yeah,
to a excuse
yeah,
me,
yeah.
schedule
No, that's all right.
here.
It's okay.
But
No, it's
yeah,
fine.
but
No, same here. It's really great talking to you. And yeah, we can always do part two. We can always do more of these. And if you'd like to, and we can talk about different topics again as well.
I
And
would love that. I
yeah,
would absolutely love that. Yes,
yeah.
this has just been a delight. And yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but I know that
No,
we
no,
both
no.
have a
Yeah,
schedule here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's fine. No, it's
Okay.
perfect. And like, where can people find you on like social media, on your website, and that kind of thing?
Yes. So if folks just type in lights on again coaching,
Mm,
just Google it. They'll
yeah.
find me. That's lights on again coaching. I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. I'm on LinkedIn. Not quite as active on LinkedIn right now. I'm working on that and just
Mm,
got started on Instagram. Yeah, I'm not on Clubhouse yet. Are
yeah.
you, Adam? Are
I'm,
you on
I'm,
Clubhouse?
I've got an Android device, so I'm not on it at the minute. But I've
Okay.
got a lot of
Yep.
friends who are telling me to go on it, so I might use my family's Apple device and go on it at some stage.
Yes, yes, the same with me, I have the Android, but it sounds like a
Yeah,
great platform to be on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Watch the space, see what happens.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. Well,
yeah.
thank you
But
so much,
no, you're
Adam.
welcome.
It's been such a delight, and I would love to be back because I felt like, oh, we were just really getting going
Yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah,
Good
yeah,
content. Yeah,
yeah. Nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to connecting with you next time.
sounds wonderful. All
Yeah.
right,
Take
take
care.
care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.